The first tutorial for TinkerCAD. Now, a lot of you may have used this software before, but we're going to run over the basics so that you've got a good understanding of how to do basic CAD modeling in this software. There's a few sort of things that we need to cover to begin before we start looking at building anything, and it's understanding the interface, or what you see and what you engage with in the software. So starting right in the middle, the obvious spot to start, you can see two major things. You can see this model here. That model represents what it is that you're going to be modeling in this advancement program. Effectively, it's a chocolate bar made out of individual blocks with something on the top. We've got a name on there for the example. And then this element here is a mold box. That creates basically a cavity around that chocolate bar mold, which we can pour silicon into and create a mold. And that mold will then let us replicate the chocolate block over and over and over in melted chocolate later. So we can see this CAD model in the middle of the screen, and that's sitting on top of this blue work plane. Now, this blue work plane represents one of three planes that exist in the 3D space that we're working in. It is infinite, meaning that even though the work plane has this sort of boundary around it, that's not where it stops. It actually goes out beyond that, so that can be extended infinitely in any of these directions. It's just there to show you the plane. So it's not a boundary, it's just representative. Because we are working in 3D space, we have an X-axis, a Y-axis, and a Z-axis, meaning that we can move things in 3 dimensions. The next sort of thing that we want to look at is over the side to the left here. We've got this sort of view cube, which shows us different orientations of the model. And at any point in time, we can click on one of those orientations, such as top, and it will show us top view. If we click on the edge, it'll rotate it around. We can click on the corner, it'll give us a perspective view, and so on and so forth, so that we can see every angle of the project, no matter where we are. And you can also click and drag on this to toggle around. So if you want to toggle, you can get a quick change of view by doing that. At any point, you can hit the home view, and that'll take you sort of to this neutral view here, where you can see the whole thing from a slight angle. When you're working on a part of the model, there's this handy tool here, which is Fit All in View. So what that will do is, if I zoom right in, and I go, oh, I want to get back to my neutral view, I can do this, and it will bring it up and fill the screen with my model. If, for instance, I was working on something quite small, like this box over here, and I'm zoomed all the way out, and it's not really in the center of my view, I can click on that and go there, and it'll bring it up front and center for me. So at any point, I can do that. Now, these are just to zoom in and out. You can pinch to zoom, or two-finger swipe to zoom in and out at any point, but they're handy to have. And then this last one here is a perspective view. So it will change the perspective that you view it in by clicking that. Sort of gives you more of a realistic perspective. That can be good for visualizing what your end product will look like. However, when we're modeling these things, it's actually easier to work flat view. And you'll see why shortly. So there's sort of your view tools down the left. Over on the right hand side, we have a few different tools, like work plane tool and a ruler tool for measuring things. You've also got the notes tool so that you can leave yourself notes. Down here we have these shape toolbars. So basic shapes is your default toolbar. Under basic shapes, you've got these solid shapes that you can insert and modify. And then these shaded ones are actually negative shapes, meaning you can cut out or remove these forms from your model. So these colored ones will be additional, and these ones will be subtractive, or additive and subtractive. You can scroll down here and there's more there. You click more and it'll load more. These basic shapes won't get you everything that you need, but we're going to look at clever ways of modifying them to achieve the end result that we want. You can also drop this, and there's all sorts of categories of stuff. Realistically, for us, everything's going to be in the basic shapes. And that is basically the interface. Down here, you've got a settings. So if you want to change settings, make sure that your snap grid is set to 1mm increments. Up the top here, we've got a few more buttons. This will show all. So if you've hidden things in your model, that'll bring it back. These tools up here are for grouping and connecting objects. We're going to see how those work in a minute when we start doing the tutorial on how to build the chocolate mold. Alignment tools so that you can line things up by left, right, top, bottom, center. A mirror tool so that we can flip things. Cruise tool, couldn't tell you what that is, never used it. Shape work plane, don't know what that does. And this one here will drop your model to the workspace. So if it's floating up in space, we click this, it'll bring it down onto the work plane. Okay, that is effectively what you need to know in terms of the interface. Up the top here, we've got import for bringing models in. We're not really going to be doing that. Export will be the one that we use, and that's where we can save our model as an STL file so that it's ready for 3D printing. Okay, and that basically concludes the introduction tutorial for TinkerCAD. Okay. Welcome to the second tutorial video for TinkerCAD. In this video we're going to look at starting to model your chocolate block. There's a few little things we need to know before we begin. If you look carefully at the chocolate block that I've modeled, you'll notice that each block is tapered, meaning that it starts wide at the base and it gets narrower as it comes up. The reason why we've done that is because we are making a mold. It means that when you take the chocolate out of the mold, it will come out easier and it'll be less likely to get stuck and to break. So you might think that we're just going to grab a box and drop that in, but that's not going to give us tapered edges. So we're actually going to start with a different tool. Come over the side here, we're going to grab a pyramid tool and we're going to drop that in here like that. Now, that's a square pyramid. You can see that it's starting as 20 by 20 by 20. Now, we need to modify that slightly. How we change the shape of this is to hover over one of these corner blocks, and you'll see when I do that, it shows me the two dimensions of the width and the length. If I come up to this one here, I can change the height. If at any point I want to move this around, I can just click it anywhere and shuffle it over. I'm just going to move it down here. Now, I don't really want to be focusing on this block up here. I want to just focus on this. So I'm going to come over to the left view toolbar, fit view to selected, boom, and that zooms us in. Now, the dimensions that I want for my chocolate block are 18 millimeters, let's go 16 millimeters wide, 24 millimeters tall, and for this one here, 45 millimeters high. Now what you'll notice is there's also this little arrow, cone arrow here. If I do that, that's just going to lift it up and down. I don't really want to do that. I want to grab the white block here and drag it up. Now you can also click in the box and just type it. Click off and it's set. So we've got quite a tall square base pyramid there now. Now we don't need all of this pointy part at the top. So we're going to grab a box, cut box. We're going to drop it in just next to our object. And we're going to use this to remove the top part of that square pyramid. So I'm going to click on the cone arrow and I'm going to bring it up by the height that I want my chocolate bar to be. So we're going to go for, let's go 11 millimeters. Then I can drag this over. You can see where it's intersecting with my square pyramid shape. You see it doesn't quite cut off everything that we want. Actually, you know what? We're going to bring it down a little bit. 11's a little bit high. We're going to go to 9. So to get this to cut off all the excess parts that we don't want, we can just grab this corner, drag it out. You can now see that it cuts off all of that. Grab this top one, bring it up, and now you can see that the entire top half of that is shaded dark. To actually make it remove that part, what we need to do is to select both the pyramid and the cut box at the same time. You can do that by either clicking and dragging a box around them both, or click one, hold shift, click the other. Now, what you'll notice up the top here is that we've got some options: union group and bundle group. The one that we want to use here is union group. And what that will do is it will actually remove the cut box from the solid shape. So let's do that. Click and wait. And there we go. It's taken off the top. So if you look at our chocolate bar in the top right corner there, you'll notice that there's a rectangular recess in the top of the block. So how we achieve that is in a similar way. We're going to grab the cut box, bring it over. Can you see how it's sitting on the work plane? But when I come up to my shape, it will go, oh, do you want to put it there? No, I want to put it on the top. It's now sitting on the top. We can drop that there. Now, that's way too big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to position it so that I get this nice even border around the outside. Now, getting that to happen from this view is a bit tricky. So I'm going to come over to my view toolbar, click on top view, and now I've got this nice orientation where I can see clearly what's happening. I'm going to click on my cut box, and I'm going to bring it in, roughly position it where I want, grab this corner, bring it over, and that looks pretty good. Get a nice even border. If I want to fine tune it, I can click on this corner and then type in the actual number that I want, but I'm pretty happy with that. So let's change view again. Let's just hit home and see what's happening. Oh, a bit too far out. I'm going to select those and hit fit view. Okay, now what's happening here is that that box is sitting on top of my tapered yellow box. So what I actually want to do is I want to drop that down so that it's sitting inside of it. So it's now sitting 1 millimeter inside, 2, 3, 4, 5. I just want it to be 1 millimeter in. So the height of this is kind of irrelevant. It can be anywhere. I'm going to draw a box around the two, and I'm going to do union group, and that should cut that recess in the top. So I've now got one of my chocolate bricks, and that's ready to copy over for as many pieces as I want on the chocolate bar. Now, before we do that, you'll notice on the chocolate bar example up here, which I'll show in full view, we've got some letters. Now, what letters or numbers or imagery you put on there is entirely up to you. But there's a little trick that we're going to do now that's going to save us a bit of time and messing around later. So I'm going to click back on here, fit the view, come over to my basic shapes tool, and there's a text tool here. Click that text tool, bring it over, get it onto the top of our block, and click. Now that's a big text. So way too big, obviously. And we probably don't want it to say text. We want it to give us a letter. So, for the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to do demo. So, I'm going to replace the text with D. I want a capital D. So, D. Now, just like with the other shapes, we can control the size of this. I want the letter to sit flush with that top ridge. So, I'm going to make it 1 millimeter tall. Then I can bring this in. Okay, that's not really a great view to do that in, so I'm going to go back to top view. Now, I'm going to quickly show you something. If I hit perspective, can you see how that is now not quite even all round? So I'm going to go back to flat view. And now I want to fit this letter into the shape. So I can grab any of these and position it so it's got a nice even spacing around it. That looks pretty good. Yep, fantastic. So I've now got one chocolate block or one chocolate piece with a letter on it. Now all I need to do is group them together. So I'm going to draw a box around all of them. And now I'm actually not going to group them yet. And the reason being, if I group them, that D will become joined onto that part and I won't be able to change it. So I'm just going to undo. I'm going to take this, I'm going to copy, Command C, and then Command V paste. Click and drag this along. Now, you can see if I zoom in down here, what I want is for these two edges, or the two pieces to meet in the corner, just like that, so we get this sort of V-shaped gap that goes all the way to the ground. Now, I'm going to do demo as my word, so I obviously need two more letters. So I'm going to copy paste, drag this one along, get it to line up by the corner there. Fantastic. Copy paste, move the last one, snap that on there, and I've now got DD. So all I do is I'm going to click on this second D. This text box will pop up. I'm going to change that to an E. Click on this one, I'll change it to an M. Click on this one and I'll change that to an O. Now, what you will notice is that not all the letters are the same size. The M is obviously wider. So we're going to have to come back to our top view, look at our shape, and we can determine whether or not we need to resize it. So I'll click on the M, make it a little bit narrower so it fits in there nice and snug. The O looks pretty good. My OCD is kicking in and there's a bit of an uneven gap. So the toolbar's in the way. So I've clicked on the O, click on Fit View. It's going to bring it over here for me. So now I can even that out. There we go. Okay. So now I've got my lettering done. What you'll notice about the chocolate bar up behind it, the white one, is that they're not just connected by the very bottom of that tapered edge, because that would be too fragile. You've actually got this sort of rectangle that runs through the bottom to connect them all, give them a little bit more firm hold together so that it doesn't break apart really easily, but there's still enough gap here for them to snap into individual pieces. So the way that we do that is, well, before we do that, I'm now happy with my lettering. I'll draw a box around everything and I'm going to group them, and that will turn them all the same color, and it's all one part now. Little thing you can do here is change the color to look more like a chocolate bar, and there you go. You sort of get a preview of what it's going to look like. So I'm going to add in this rectangle through the center. I'm going to grab the box tool. I'm going to bring it over, and let's just chuck it up here for now. I want the height of that to be about 2 millimeters. Let's start with that. Now, I can grab this corner, bring it over, and get it to snap onto this edge of the chocolate block. Same thing here. Can't really see, so I'll go top view. Get that in line there. And then bring this out here. I don't want to bring it all the way out to the edge. We can stop halfway through the end blocks because I just need it to basically bridge the gaps between the letters. It doesn't have to go out the edges. And let's have a look at what's happening here. So what you can see is that at the bottom edge, it actually lines up with the edges, but because it's a rectangle and we're adding it to a tapered shape, these bits stick out, which isn't fantastic. We actually want to get rid of that. So what we can do is we can remove that with a cut box. Now, how we do that is we take our cut box, bring it over, and you can see if I drop this on that face, it matches the angle of the face. I'm going to go top view, zoom out a bit, and I can drag this across so that it now covers all those little bits that stick out. You can see them intersecting with that cut box. So if I zoom in, I want to try to click on that red box and my cut box, do union group, and if we watch up here, it's just trim them off so that it's now sitting at the same angle as the edge of my chocolate bar. I'm going to repeat that process over here, jack that on there, drag it out so it cuts through the whole thing. I need to swing my view around so I can select that red box and the cut box, union group them, and there we go. Now I can draw a box around them, union group them, and boom, we've got our finished chocolate bar. Now, that's the chocolate bar part, but we actually need to also incorporate a mold box with it. So, for the mold box, what we're going to do is we're going to create sort of an empty box that goes around it. Now, there's a few little steps for this. So, I'm going to click on my chocolate bar, go fill view, and now I want to get a box tool. I'm just going to drop it roughly here. I'm going to change the height here to 2 millimeters. Okay, and then grab this corner, and basically I want to create a bit of a gap around the outside of my chocolate bar because this area is going to be filled with silicon. Now that looks like enough. It's about, I don't know, maybe 5 millimeters. So to make sure that we get it even all the way around, we're going to click and drag a box around these two. I'm going to come up to my align tool, and if I click on any of these little nodes here, this one will align those by the center that way. These will align by the center this way. If I was to click this one, it would align them by this edge. So aligned by the center, and now I know that that chocolate bar is centered on top of that panel. Now, they're currently intersecting, so I'm going to click on my chocolate bar and I'm going to lift it up by the thickness of that rectangle, which is 2 millimeters. So that's sitting on there. Now, these are still separate parts, and you can tell they're separate by their different colors. What I'm going to do is I'm going to now take this rectangle and I'm going to push it up. That's now level with the top of the chocolate bar, and I'm actually going to come about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 millimeters above it and encompass the chocolate bar within that box. Now, what I want to do next is to take a cut box. I'm going to drop it on top here, go to top view, and now we need to create a hole to cut through this box. So this box just needs to be very thin because we're actually going to probably snap it off at the end. So if you can see what I've done there, I've basically just kept a very thin margin around the outside. Now this cut box is sitting on top of that box there. That box, if I click on it and check, is 16 millimeters high. Now I want to keep that 2 millimeter floor that we originally put in there. So what that means is that this cut box should come down 14 millimeters. So total height minus 2. So I'm going to go 14 millimeters. And then I'm going to click on the red box and the cut box and do union group. And look at that. I've now got my mold box. Now, we do actually want these to print off as one part, so I'm going to draw a box around them like that, and I'm going to go union group. They are now all the one part. We're going to change the color to white so that we see what it's going to look like when it's 3D printed. And that is completed. Well done, you've just made a chocolate bar and a mold box ready for silicon molding.